All right, we are now sort of live. We are pre-recording this show for you guys today, so welcome anyway to all of our audience. We love talking about media on this show, and I want to assure all of our viewers that although I am closing out my first year as the host of this show, we are going to continue this great tradition of ending the year talking about movies, television, and the future of entertainment. Our big question this year is this: how much is AI going to impact the industry? Is it the beginning of the end, or maybe something better? We're going to talk about all of this in this special end of the year episode of the In the Tank podcast. All right, welcome to the In the Tank podcast, everyone. I am Linnea Lueken, your host, and as usual, we're going to get right into this. We have Jim Lakely, Vice President and Director of Communications at the Heartland Institute, Sam Karnick, Senior Fellow, Chris Talgo, Editorial Director and Socialism Research Fellow, and also joining us today, Donald Kendal, who would not miss this. He is the Director of the Glenn C. Haskins Emerging Issues Center. We also have a very special guest today who has graced us with his presence, and that is Christian Toto, award-winning film critic who founded HollywoodandToto.com. He co-hosts a podcast, Off the Beaten Path, as well as his podcast, the Hollywood in Toto podcast. He has been on the Daily Wire, The Blaze, all over the place. So welcome to the show, Christian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be back. Wouldn't miss this for the world.
Yeah, we have him on every year. I say we like I've been here this whole time, but really it was Donnie who was in charge before, and I just sometimes showed up. But anyway, gosh, we have people from all over the country on this show. We have people from all over the world watching this show. So I just wanted to say right off the bat here, Merry Christmas to everyone. And thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to this one.
Oh, yeah, me
all
too.
Right.
This is like our fifth one. I think this is our fifth one consecutive. It's our longest running tradition on In the Tank podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And 522 episodes. Man, we're killing it. Anyway, before we get started, you guys, as always, if you want to support the show, you can go to heartland.org/inthetank and donate there. Please also click the thumbs up to like the video. And remember that sharing it helps us to break through some of YouTube's suppression, or even just leaving a comment helps us too. If you're an audio listener, you can help us out by leaving a nice review. And since today's episode is a little bit looser compared to our normal show, I'm going to mix it up a little bit and start us off with talking about our incredibly generous sponsor, Advisor Metals. So, you know, a lot of people in the conservative, libertarian, and my favorite, plain old prepper spaces love to hit you with ads for buying precious metals. They're not wrong that they're a good investment, but you really want to be careful about who you buy your metals from. At In the Tank, we trust Advisor Metals over all of those other guys. And that's because we know that the person running the place is the best of the best. A great friend of Liberty, Ira Bershatsky owns and is the managing member of Advisor Metals. He has decades of experience in precious metals and is the only person in the physical precious metals industry who has the Commodities Futures Trading Commission federal registration. What does that mean for you? Well, it means that everything Ira or a member of his team says has to be factual. There's no sketchy sales pitch or bait and switch. He is held to the highest ethical standards, and there's full transparency, which is way too lacking in other places nowadays. If you want to diversify your investment portfolio and your savings, if you're planning for retirement and are concerned about economic uncertainty, if you want a tangible asset that is easy to buy and sell, you can secure your assets with a wide range of physical precious metals by getting in touch with our friend Ira at Advisor Metals. He is going to make it easy for you, and he's a supporter of our work and our show, so please support him and us by visiting climaterealismshow.com/metals, and you can leave your information for Ira and get started with investing in precious metals and expand your portfolio. go to climaterealismshow.com/medals. And when you talk to Ira, make sure you let him know that we sent you. That helps us as you're helping your financial future by diversifying with precious metals. All right. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Ira. Merry Christmas to Ira as well. We are so appreciative that he supports us on this show as well as the Climate Realism Show on Friday. So it really means a lot to us. Okay, but we will get into it now. We have, for our Unhinged topic today, not quite the usual Unhinged, so we're not going to drop, but we are going to start us off at a low point by talking about the worst movies of 2025. And so, full disclosure, I am the worst host in the world this year for this particular topic because I barely watched any new movies this year. I saw so many reviews of movies and I saw so many, kind of quick, just what someone I know thought about a movie. And almost every single time it made me not interested in going and seeing the actual movie. I spent a long time on IMDb in anticipation of this episode, trying to figure out what I actually have seen this year. I saw one movie in theaters, and it was all right. I saw one new release on Flight, and it was all right. A few I saw at home, rented on Amazon, but really I've not seen very many new movies. I didn't like How to Train Your Dragon, but only because the exact movie but better exists, and it's called How to Train Your Dragon. I saw a movie called Death of a Unicorn on Amazon, and it was pretty bad, but I kind of liked it anyway. But that is why I am including television on this list today for this topic, because it's not just movies, television as well. And it is so easy for me to offer my worst of the year prize to Ironheart, which logged through for almost 3 whole episodes before I just couldn't take it anymore. And Donnie knows too. Oh. So please, you guys, I want to hear everybody's opinion on this. What was the worst movie or television show that you saw this year that really is a standout bad product?
Well, let me jump in and say that normally when you've got Robert De Niro, it's a good thing. If you hire 2 Robert De Niros, maybe not a good thing. The movie Alto Nights came out earlier this year, and it's a complete disaster. Now, it's a gangster film with De Niro. You think, how could it go wrong? You got Barry Levinson, who gave us many great movies, including Diner, another great choice. It is a complete trash bin fire. It's just disastrous. And casting the same actor in 2 different roles and not even having them as brothers where it might make some sense was just the worst decision ever. And this is an absolute... I mean, I just don't understand it. I don't know how you can make a dull, uninteresting gangster movie, but they've done that with the Alto Nights, and the box office responded in kind. It was one of the biggest flops of 2025, and deservedly so.
Okay, so Linnea, we're just doing our worst or
most.
Worst. Okay, so worst movies. I did not see either of these, but just based on the commercials, I'm going to go Wicked and Snow White.
Cool.
Okay. My worst TV is going to be every single late night TV show except Greg Gutfeld's, and of course The View.
Oh, good. Yeah, I like Linnea have not ventured out and seen a whole lot of movies. I went and saw Lilo and Stitch, the live action one, because I have a little one that was interested in seeing that movie. A lot of people were hating on that movie. I didn't think it was too bad. Probably a little long. I think like no kids movie should be longer than like an hour and 20 minutes. Like lop off 30 minutes of that movie and I would have given it a bigger thumbs up. But I am mad that Linnea brought up Ironheart. I think I suppressed that memory of me actually watching that show. And now it's all flooding back to me. So I'm very upset.
Well, as for me, unlike Christian Toto, my friend, I do not get paid to watch the schlock and garbage that comes out of Hollywood on TV and in theaters, so I can choose to not attend and watch Snow White. Although I probably watched probably 50 times the length of the Snow White film of videos on YouTube of people ripping Snow White, the movie. I really have enjoyed this year because it's just been a topic-rich environment for some of my favorite YouTube channels and critics like Christian Toto, who will tell me how terrible all the schlock out of Hollywood actually is. And as you were, I was trying to think, and I was telling Donnie this morning here in the office, I can't think of the worst thing I saw this year because I have not had to seek it out. I'm not been paid to do it like Christian Toto is. And the first thing I thought of was, oh yeah, that's right. I watched The Acolyte, which was so bad. And then I had to look it up on IMDb. That was in 2024. The horrible memory of that show is still so fresh in my mind that it qualifies. And so that's what I'm going to say, because the trauma from watching the Acolyte has carried over for me into 2025.
The stink can't be contained by a single year.
No.
I used to watch pretty much everything, and now since around 2012, I don't watch anything.
Yeah.
I read, and I only read things that are well before 2012. But it is interesting what Chris brought up. I thought the commercials will tell you everything you need to know. The promos that, okay, this is horrible. This is going to be exactly what we've been doing for the last dozen years. So either you like that or you don't. The fact of the matter is, I don't.
Well, now I'm very curious. You brought up your least favorite movie of the year, Christian. Where does Snow White fall on the list? Is that
it didn't make the cut for me. I did not hate that movie, and I know it makes me a bit of a pariah in my circle, but I thought it was mildly effective, slightly charming, inoffensive. I mean, I know all the hullabaloo that came before it. I know that all the dwarf issues and Rachel Zegler putting her foot in her mouth so often. I mean, she must taste like her breath must taste like feet. But I just, maybe my expectations were so basement level that I thought it was watchable, nothing more. I mean, it certainly wasn't great or even very good, but yeah, I couldn't put it on that list. It didn't warrant that for me.
So, just because, like I have a habit of kind of tracking the box office, output and all of that. And one of the kind of the macro trends is, like, generally speaking, I think one of the episodes that we talked about, it's like the death of the $1 billion movie or something along those lines, is that, like, the trend line in terms of box office returns is, like, kind of going down. And I think this year is no exception to that. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to, like, kind of go through some of these things. The Snow White movie, I mean, that was just in absolute, like, disaster management by the time that it came out. So that flopped horribly. It did only 200 million worldwide. Only 87 million of that was domestic. I don't think anyone was expecting it to do it as, better than that. But I remember at the beginning of the year, there was these lists that come out. They're like, the movies that are likely to make $1 billion. And it included Jurassic Park. There was a new Jurassic Park movie this year, in case people forgot. Superman, Fantastic Four, some of these more kids movies. And with only two exceptions, the Zootopia 2 and Lilo and Stitch, those are the only two that hit the $1 billion mark. All of the other ones fell short. A lot of people thought Jurassic World would have done it, despite the last few movies not being very good. A lot of people thought the new Fantastic Four movie with Pedro Pascal in it, right, was going to do. Is that who it was? I don't know. I don't even remember. Was going to do really well, but none of them did. So was that a surprise to you, or were you kind of expecting that?
I mean, I think that's like you mentioned, the trend lines are hard to argue with. On one side, the Superman movie did better than I thought. I thought it was a very mediocre film, and I'm being kind, but some people really enjoyed it, and I think the old-fashioned nature of it and having that character back in our lives was enough, but it didn't hit the $1 billion mark. I know that's not even sky high figure, but that's what superhero films, the ones that were popular, used to make regularly. It just doesn't happen anymore. And I was actually surprised by the Fantastic Four First Steps, both that it didn't make a ton of money. I think it maybe eked over for a profit, but I found it utterly charming. I just rewatched it a couple days ago. The middle section is a little weak, and there's a visit by the mole man, which is just a silly subplot they should have just taken away immediately. But I found it like the old school MCU movies to a degree, where I cared about the characters and the action was interesting and there were stakes there. And I thought it was extremely pro-family, even pro-life in ways. So it checked a lot of boxes for me. I was really surprised by that. And I know everyone hates on Pedro Pascal, and I get it. He's everywhere. And boy, is he annoying in interviews. But I thought he was just fine as Reed Richards and anchoring that family and his fear for his child, holding the marriage together, having literally the weight of the world and trying to defend the world against Galactus. I thought it did exactly what it should have done. And I think the fact that people didn't respond like I thought, not so much my ego, but just I think we're moving on from superhero movies. We'll still watch them, we'll still cheer them on, but the big numbers, I don't know if that can happen anymore. The only chance is Avengers Doomsday, and if that one can't overperform, they're in trouble, real big trouble.
Yeah, and sorry, out of fear of being accused of hijacking the show, I got one more question for you.
Please do, Donnie.
You're not the host anymore, Donnie.
I know. The another trend that we were kind of like speculating existed, and maybe there's some more data points to that, is like the reemergence of kind of like the old like 80s kind of action movies, so to speak. So in the years past, we talked about like Top Gun Maverick, but there was a couple more this year. There was the F1, the movie, and then Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Neither of those did billion-dollar numbers. Nobody expected them to do billion-dollar numbers. But F1 did $631 million, and Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning did about $600 million. So those are pretty good. I'm wondering if studios are going to invest a little bit more in kind of that like Tom Cruise heavy, Brad Pitt heavy, action movie of like the 80s era.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because you're right. Both were very entertaining, and both did quite well, but both had huge budgets. I mean, the F1 movie, I forget the raw numbers, but it was massive. And when you're watching, you think, I don't see that on the screen. I don't know what the production issues were, but Mission Impossible, you can see it on the screen. Those movies cost a lot of money. And I think with that one, maybe COVID, the hangover from COVID was still impacting it, but that's part of the problem. That's actually probably why we'll talk about AI at some point. They've got to reduce those budgets, because even when movies are very successful and people love them, they either don't make a profit or they barely make a profit. And if you can't get those movies to kind of ring those bells for you, what else you got? I mean, it's a real problem in Hollywood. I don't know why they don't hire. I think every major production should hire an indie filmmaker, and he or she can say, cut this, trim that, don't need that. I can do it with less, and just get that budget down, because without that, Hollywood's in a world of trouble. I mean, if these tentpole movies can't do it, it spells doom of some kind. No doctor intended.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting too, because when I had seen the initial previews and stuff for that Fantastic Four movie, I thought, man, that looks pretty good, actually. I think I would like to see that. It has a neat aesthetic, and like that's something I haven't seen Marvel do before, so I'd like to go see it. And then I just didn't go see it. And I think that happened to me, and I think it happens to a lot of people right now. Yeah. It happens a lot with so many movies. You're like, that looks interesting. That would be something that, 10 years ago I would drag my friends to, because that's what we did every weekend. We'd go to see some kind of a movie or something. And it's not just because I was in college or high school or whatever. It was just like, that was the culture at the time, is everybody went to the movies every weekend, pretty much, where I grew up and my friend groups and stuff that I had. But now with streaming and everything, you just kind of think, unless it's something that I need to see in the theater because it seems like an experience, or, I want to go see this with my sister and my mom, specifically when it comes to Wicked, which I did see both parts of Wicked, and they were all right. I mean, I grew up on the musical, so I like it, but, and I like musicals, so that's kind of like a wheelhouse that I'm all right with. But it's definitely not for everyone. But unless it's something that I'm specifically going there for, I'm pretty much not going to the theaters, even though I think the theaters deserve to be popular again. It's just there's no draw there at this point, unless it's like an Avatar movie or something,
Well, you hit on the key issue, the culture. It's the culture of movie going, or now the lack thereof. And the fact you've got all these different streaming platforms, you got all these different TV sizes where you can watch a 75-inch TV and not break the bank. It's just changed. The culture has changed. It's funny. My young son he went to see Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and because all his buddies want to see it, because it was sort of hip within their community. But to get him to a theater, otherwise, it's almost impossible. And I don't think his friends go that often. That's a really selective anecdote for sure, but I think we're seeing it across the landscape. We just have different ways to entertain ourselves. The culture isn't there. There's social media. And again, you've got streaming platforms which debut new movies with big budgets and A-list stars. I mean, we had Martin Scorsese doing The Irishman for Netflix, not for theaters. I mean, you're seeing that again and again. And, big stars like Dwayne Johnson, they make movies specifically for streaming platforms. So a lot of the reasons why we went to the theater, they just don't exist anymore.
Well, and the turnaround time too is like, I think that Fantastic Four movie was out on Disney streaming, whatever, like 6 weeks later or something,
it's even shorter sometimes. That window, that exclusivity window keeps shrinking.
Yes.
And, when I was growing up, either you have to wait months and months and months for something to be seen on our homes, either VHS or DVD, whatever it was. But now, especially if a movie flops, it'll zoom to VOD. It'll be there maybe in a couple of weeks. So you can watch it at home with 6 friends and you pay $20, or you can pay almost $20 for one individual ticket in a theater with expensive food and people talking behind you and commercials and way too many trailers. I mean, it's almost a perfect storm of the theaters just can't keep on keeping on like they were.
Yep. And the trailers are worse too, if you've noticed. That's kind of interesting to see. Not trailers for like major major movies and stuff necessarily, but like it feels like the theaters don't even have enough trailers to fill the space before a movie in. And there's so many of those, like we're waiting for the movie to start, placeholders about the theater itself thing nowadays too. It's kind of sad to watch. But anyway, I don't want to linger on this for too long because we need to blame somebody for these movies not doing well. And that's the next kind of subject that I'm going to move into here. So these movies are struggling, or even the ones that are bad for a variety of reasons. But most of what I hear across the board is that there aren't as many good movies coming out. And I think the entire internet groaned in fatigue when the Supergirl trailer dropped, because it is like it's ground that's been tread and retread all the time. It's not just because James Gunn has become sort of a hack, but because we have been bombarded with like cutesy superhero films for years. And I think just people aren't as interested unless something comes along that's really special. And so another idea that I've heard recently is that, older writers were raised on the greats and the classics, some of the best literature of all time. And younger writers are raised on the derivative writing of those older writers. So we're raised on movies. People of my generation grew up watching all of these movies. Everything sounds like a derivative of Joss Whedon because everyone in my generation grew up watching Buffy. So everything just keeps kind of spiraling from there. And so we've got all these writers coming up, and now you have DEI layered on top of that, actively pursued in the writers' rooms in every part of Hollywood. And it might be preventing some really good talent from being able to break through. And so there was this recent Compact Magazine article that went viral this week. The author is Jacob Savage, and it's a pretty interesting read. I don't know if you got to it or not, Christian.
Yeah. It's not interesting, it's mesmerizing, and it's harrowing at the same time. Looking at just how DEI has impacted not just Hollywood, not just academia, and not just the news outlets in the world, but almost everything. It's really comprehensive. It's exhausting. It's a kind of article you scroll and scroll and scroll, then you realize you're only halfway done with it. But it's a necessary read, and it really does explain a lot of what we're talking about in the culture at large.
And it takes a soft enough approach that it's not going to like scare your aunt, your liberal aunt or whatever. So so the article, you guys, to our audience here, is called The Lost Generation. And Christian, I want to read part of this for the benefit of the audience and everything. And I want to see if this tracks with some of your experience and stories of others in the film industry that you're familiar with. So here, I'm going to start here and kind of skip around a little bit. Sorry, Andy. I was 31. I'd been in Los Angeles for 5 years writing scripts. There had been minor successes. Success felt close. Back then, it always did. An executive emailed us out of the blue to meet. The showrunner explained that he'd submitted for us for an upcoming writer's room that he was going to run. The exec loved our pilot and wanted to hire us. This was it, the moment our careers were supposed to take off. But of course, by 2016, we were already too late. The showrunner emailed us back apologetically. I had initially thought I might be able to help bring you guys on, he wrote, but in the end, it wasn't possible. We met with the executive anyway, a Gen X white guy, who told us how much he loved our pilot, but the writer's room was small, he explained apologetically, and higher level writers were all white men. They couldn't have an all white male room. The doors seemed to close everywhere and all at once. In 2011, the year I moved to Los Angeles, white men were 48% of lower-level TV writers. By 2024, they accounted for just 11.9%. In retrospect, 2014 was the hinge. Later, he adds, white men directed 69% of TV episodes in 2014, 34% by 2021. That remaining third went overwhelmingly to established names. Since 2021, 11 directors under 40 have been nominated for Emmys. None have been white men. So that's pretty astonishing, actually, the crash there. And so the argument that I'm making here, not the author, but me, is not that people who aren't white men can't write good stuff or be good directors, of course, but I am suggesting that this kind of filtering that's not based on merit can't find you the best of the best. So does this kind of track with what you've seen or heard, Christian?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, the comedian Tyler Fisher has shared his story that he's a straight white male comedian, and his agency basically said, we can't hire you. We can't do anything with you because you are who you are. And now he's suing them. It's been a long time coming, that suit. I don't know what the status of it is. I know a screenwriter had similar stories. There's a little bit of those stories in my book, Virtue Bombs, How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul. Yeah, those are anecdotal, but this article really paints a pretty bleak picture. And again, the positive side of all of this culturally is that we've recognized bigotry to the point where we're accepting people of all walks of life into Hollywood and other platforms and saying, hey, you got talent. We want to hear it. We want to share it. We want to show it. But when you look deeper into that policy and you say, not only are we open to other people from all walks of life, but we don't want a certain group in anymore. They've had too much opportunity. We want them out. But within that group, there could be extremely talented people, and to push them aside for others who may be not as talented or maybe being hired for other reasons is detrimental to whatever we're talking about, whether it's, the news or Hollywood, whatever. There was a story a couple of years ago. It really kind of rocked me. It talked about Modern Family, which I think is the best sitcom of all time. You can argue that for another day, but it's obviously a great show and it ran forever. And they said if they had introduced that show today based on, it was either the cast or the writers or both, that it wouldn't pass muster. Just imagine that. Even if you don't love Modern Family, it was a celebrated show. It was dripping with Emmys, and it lasted either 9 or 11 years, I forget which, but a long time. We wouldn't have it because of that bean counting, because it didn't check all the different boxes. But just take that and be horrified by it and then expand it. Well, what other shows wouldn't be there that were once great? What other artists have been pushed aside who maybe had a great story to tell? What other singers, what other journalists, what other fill in the blank didn't get the chance to flex their skills and their talents because they were the wrong color? I mean, racism is bad, bigotry is bad, discrimination is bad. Well, now it's okay because we have to balance the scales. No, it's all wrong. It should be about merit. This is America, and that the Compact article is just an absolutely perfect snapshot of everything that went wrong.
Quick question. So I think a lot of people they equate DEI with some sort of like woke ideology in the movie or in the TV show here. But I wonder if you've got people who aren't as qualified as others, if that impacts the quality here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a quick political dig, was Kamala Harris the best person to be the vice president? No, but President Biden wanted a black female to be on his ticket, and then she was chosen, and she's not the best and brightest. She just isn't. We all know that. And the same plays out in Hollywood. So you could have showrunners, you could have show writers who maybe fit a certain category, but maybe they're not there yet. Maybe they're not seasoned enough. Maybe they just don't have the skills. And it doesn't mean that are great, talented people who are black and Asian and Hispanic and all different groups. Obviously. Now, let's not, I don't want to go down that straw man rabbit hole, but you hire on merit. And if there is an issue that maybe there's not enough minority representation in TV, then maybe you could use some money and start up a school and have scholarships for young black writers and let them learn the craft. And then in 5-10 years, they enter Hollywood and they've got tons of talent and tons of ambition and tons of stories to tell, and then have them go into the industry and into the marketplace. That's the way it should have been, not just shoehorning people in because they're the right color or the right background. We're seeing the results of it across the culture.
There never was any evidence that Hollywood was prejudiced against women, for example, or blacks. There was no evidence of it. It was simply alleged disparate impact. You look at the numbers and you say, well, there isn't an equal amount of, or an equal percentage of every possible group, and so it must be because of prejudice and perfidy. It can't be because different people have different aptitudes and interests. It has to be an evil thing.
Yeah.
Well, and
They
even
never
then,
proved that.
sorry, Sam, but even then, even if they were just trying to aim for, having the exact same percentage as like the US breakdown of race and gender reflected in television and in like the writers' rooms and stuff, they've way blown past that. I mean, it's completely out of control, actually. Like there's a long-standing joke about like the amount, if you were like an alien that came to Earth and you were looking at our television alone to get an idea of what American civilization was like, they would assume that like a third of all Americans were gay, for one.
Yes, and that all police chiefs,
When it's actually half.
all police chiefs are black females.
Right.
Yeah, and it's an absurd idea on its face, and yet it is horribly insidious and just wrong. It's morally wrong. And so I mean, I don't even care, frankly, if it leads to good movies or bad movies. That's not the point. You don't have a right to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, this story, and we'll put the link to all the stories that we're covering today in the description of this video, so you can check it out for yourself, because it is a long read. I was actually a little late getting into the office today because I had to keep going all the way to the end, and I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm only halfway through, and I'm already 10,000 words in. But anyway, it's definitely worth a long read. But they do point out it's not just Hollywood. They point to DEI's effect, especially in academia. That if you are a millennial academic who's looking for tenure track, forget about it. Literally forget about it. It's not going to happen for you. And this all happened like in the mid 2010s. And then, 2016 is when Me Too happened. And that was when, Christian can speak to this, Oscars So White, when every nominee for Best Actress and Actor, I think, were all white. And so Oscars So White hashtag trended. You put all that together, plus George Floyd and, wokeness going forward. And Christian's written a whole book on woke Hollywood that you should check out for sure. But, what you see is that what you just pointed out, Linnea, that there's actually an overrepresentation now of so-called marginalized communities in a lot of these fields that have been run by people on the left who call themselves liberals, and they're on the center left. And now it's been overcorrection, and now, oh, poor white guy. But it's not white guys. It's specifically millennial and Gen Z white guys, because people my age, as they point out in this story, were able to get their foothold in Hollywood before wokeness and racial and gender quotas and sexual orientation quotas took hold, making it impossible really for a talented millennial TV writer to get anywhere in the industry. And so they've left, and they're leaving. And what we're left with is the slop that we're getting out of Hollywood now. It is so rare. I don't watch anything anymore unless I get a good recommendation from someone like Christian Toto by going to hollywoodandtoto.com, or colleagues, friends here at work, or with the YouTube channels that cover pop culture that I respect and appreciate. But as I was reading through this movie, again, it was written by a center lefty, a liberal. Nearly everybody he talked to and quoted in the story was a liberal or on the left. And as I read that story and finished it today, I thought about that great line from Rorschach in Watchmen, where the world is crying out for help. Save us. And I'll whisper, no. And, I'm reading that and it's like, dude, you guys made this. This Hollywood is locking out you, the person who wrote this article, because of the culture you have fostered in Hollywood. And it is not a culture that is shared by anybody who is fair-minded and basically doesn't live on the coasts. And, I do feel bad, because people who have talent should be able to rise, because we all benefit from that. As consumers of pop culture, we benefit when the best writers and the best directors and the best showrunners are out there doing the work, getting the jobs, presenting us with really unforgettable TV. I think the first time we had you on this program way back years ago, Christian, we were celebrating that we were living in the age of peak TV. Oh my gosh, that feels like 100 years ago now compared to what we had.
It peaked.
Yeah.
I also think that Hollywood's much more risk averse than they were years ago. I feel like when I was a kid, they made all sorts of movies to all sorts of different people. And it does seem like today, most of the TV shows and big budget movies are much more cookie cutter-esque. And I wonder if you feel like the DEI is having anything to do with that.
I mean, it's certainly so, but also the budgets too, because the budgets are so big, you can't really take risks. Because you swing and a miss and you're out millions and millions of dollars. But the DEI and the woke, there really is overlap there, because it's basically saying it's not about merit, it's not about story, it's about doing certain things a certain way. And you always see that in the films and TV shows you watch. It could be that there's a character who is white and you think, oh, there's a good chance he or she is the villain because of the skin color, or there's a minority character, well, that's going to be a noble person because they don't want to offend certain groups. Patricia Heaton, the great actress from Everybody Loves Raymond, she was working on a sitcom. I don't know how far it went along the way, but there was a conversation about a character who was like a military guy, and in the show he wouldn't hug people, and one of the 20-something writers on the show said, we can't do that, it's homophobic. And she said, well, first of all, I thought, well, does it mean he's homophobic? Like, I have an aunt, I have a sister-in-law who doesn't hug. It's that's just who she is. But more importantly, what if that guy is a little homophobic and is a little uncomfortable with men? And then by the end of the show, the end of the episode, the end of the series, maybe after one season, he's more comfortable in his own skin and he's gotten to know people and he's grown. And I think sometimes we don't want that character arc to happen, where you can't have a character with flaws because that's offensive or that's inappropriate. But we want to have real three-dimensional characters. Rob Reiner recently passed, which is an absolute tragedy. But on All in the Family, I believe that the show is envisioned to have his character and the Gloria character to be sort of the heroes of the show. But then Carol O'Connor as Archie was so larger than life. And even though he was bigoted, there was a decency to him and the audience flocked to him. And so here's this deeply flawed man with these deeply flawed ideas, but you enjoyed elements of him. You rooted for him in a way. You saw his warts and were entertained by it. And he grew over time a little bit as well. So that's where this whole issue comes into play. It just makes bland cookie cutter stories that aren't as engaging.
It also makes
this mindset really is a very damaging one, because it ignores one of the facts of art, which is depiction does not mean advocacy. Yeah. If you show something, it doesn't mean you're advocating it. Shakespeare wasn't advocating murdering kings, at least not all of them, just the bad ones. But seriously, depiction does not mean advocacy. If you're going to show anything of interest, it's going to have people in it who are doing things that are wrong. There's no story if people aren't doing things wrong. But what they want is they want to create heroes and villains who have particular characteristics, because they want to villainize certain groups of people out in the world. That is really the game there, and it's contemptible, and it's something that obviously a person in that group is not going to feel comfortable watching. And so that is why I hardly watch anything, since the 2012. It's just awful. I don't need to see people tell me that everybody in this particular group that I'm grouped into is a monster. It's insane.
I used to particularly love historical epics, and it seems like nowadays they are rewriting those histories to such a degree that it makes it unwatchable. Because I'm sitting there thinking in my head, of course the Indians weren't all like living harmoniously. They did fight each other, and it is stuff like that just makes this stuff literally unwatchable for me.
One perfect example of what Sam just said was people in recent years have been upset about the movie Animal House. I think 1979 came out. And of course, there's one scene in the movie where John Belushi's character gets a ladder, climbs it up it, and then peeps at some girls like a sorority house where they're changing. and it's a very funny scene. And some people found that offensive. Of course, the answer is this is not a role model. This is not a hero. This is not the main character. This is a guy who's a jerk, and we're allowed to laugh at jerks who misbehave. And of course, the end of the scene, I think he falls off the ladder, or he gets his comeuppance in a way. But so if you can't have that scene, you can't have the laughs, you can't have naughty characters, you can't have R-rated comedies, which is why we haven't seen many great R-rated comedies in the last decade. It's not a surprise, not a shock.
Yeah, man, I love Animal House so much. Definitely one of my favorite movies, but I think about it all the time. And I think this is something that all of us talk about all of the time, which is, could this be made today? If they said, I want to make a movie about a fraternity goofing off and getting revenge on the administration or whatever, how would that go? There would be no possible way that they would come up with any of the stuff that's in Animal House.
Yeah.
You know what's worse than Animal House? Revenge of the Nerds. Oh my gosh. There is some really bad stuff in there.
Which is what makes it great.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and we could talk about that all day long. I want to bring up real quick this Variety article. Hollywood ditches DEI to avoid Donald Trump's wrath. And I want to know if any of us on this panel is convinced that this is legitimate, that they're actually ditching. This is from back in March, but that they're actually ditching anything, or if it's just going to snap back like a rubber band the second that these studios aren't being threatened with legal action. So in 2023, Warner Brothers Discovery launched Diversity Digest, a quarterly update on the company's DEI efforts. The first installment highlighted Latino representation in Blue Beetle, which flopped, and home renovation show Rico to the Rescue. Never heard of it. And I like HGTV, and I don't know. But after regular updates in 2024, the digest went silent after the election of President Trump. Last week, the feature was dropped from the company's DEI page, along with WBD's commitments to equity and diversity outreach, as the company narrowed its focus to inclusion. The move came as Trump has sought to stamp out DEI programs at the federal level and threaten civil and criminal investigations of private companies. Last month, the Federal Communications Commission opened an investigation of Comcast for possibly pursuing invidious forms of discrimination under the banner of DEI. And so Verna Myers, who is a former head of inclusion at Netflix, said that bullying is causing a lot of companies to reassess. Jim, is it bullying that the Trump administration says you can't hire someone or refuse to hire someone based on race or sex? Is that what bullying is?
I'm okay with, let's make bullying great again. I'm fine with that. I mean, I think Christian will probably agree with me that, and again, we go back to that article, that long article that we talked about earlier. And it was this idea that all of these companies, especially in Hollywood, were trumpeting their DEI initiatives and basically trumpeting the fact that they were not going to hire any more white guys, that they were under a mandate to do this. Maybe Christian can also update us on the supposed mandate for being considered for Oscar consideration these days, to have diversity that you can prove in front of and behind the camera and in positions of leadership for Hollywood. That was touted, that was trumpeted just a few years ago. I've not heard a lot about it since, whether those restrictions are still in place. But I have a feeling that the ideology of the people behind these programs and the pressure now from the people benefiting from them, for their livelihoods, are not going to allow Warner Brothers Discovery or I guess it'll be Paramount pretty soon, or any of these Hollywood companies to just dismantle all of these things. They've just taken it down from the website. They've relabeled it something else, and it's probably going to continue.
Yeah, to my knowledge, the Oscar diversity checkbook is still in existence. And to be fair to the Academy, you don't have to check all the boxes, but some of the boxes. It's still ridiculous. And to my knowledge, only one or two people have spoken out against it. One of them was Richard Dreyfuss, who said that the new inclusivity rules make him want to vomit. I'm paraphrasing really slightly. But yeah, I mean, I imagine that some companies within Hollywood are changing the labels, backing away. But one of the reasons why it is in decline is that Hollywood in recent years has been fairly flush with cash. The box office was still pretty good. Streamers were making money, but it's gotten tighter. COVID, the two strikes that hit Hollywood a couple of years ago, streamers aren't making the money they thought they would now. Box office numbers are falling. So they can't afford to do these virtual signaling affairs. That's part of the reason why you're seeing a decrease in this. They got to get bang for their buck. And it may be feeling good to kind of get diversity numbers in line, but if doing that means you're making less money, then there's a problem. And again, it's not about the fact that a minority person can't be great as an artist, a singer, a dancer, a director. We're not arguing that. I always have to mention that, but it's about talent. Put them first. And listen, if you've got a show and the cast is primarily Black and the writers are primarily Hispanic, and it's a great show, God bless them. More of that, please. And by the way, I think one of the biggest franchises, though I think it's stalled, no pun intended, in recent years, was Fast and Furious. It made 10 or so movies, 10 or 11. I forget. I lost track after a while. But look at that cast. It's extraordinarily diverse, and they never really talk about it. They're family. They're not officially family, but they're family, and they're charming, charismatic actors who put on a good show, and no one cares about it, and there's no lectures. It's just rock'em sock'em entertainment with, crashes that defy all forms of logic. But who cares? It's fun. But that's diversity at its best, where you just hire people because they're good, and you put out a product, and people love it. Great.
Yep.
I also think this is a response to the market, because I do think that a big portion of the market said enough of this. We want, non-woke, Americana type, entertainment. And I think a TV show like Landman is delivering that. And that's why it is so popular, because it goes against the grain of so much, that Hollywood is trying to push upon people.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that show has oil people as the heroes. I mean,
Yeah.
they're flawed. They're
Yeah.
silly. They're crude. No pun intended again. But
You're crushing it over here.
it's entertaining. And what Taylor Sheridan does with all his shows is he pushes in directions that other shows won't. So you might have a character who gives an anti-green speech or a quip. Just recently, they had an episode of Landman where they made fun of The View. The View is the dumbest show on TV.
Thoroughly enjoyed that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, so you wouldn't get that on any other show, but why not? Why can't you poke fun at The View? Why can't you poke fun at the Green Movement? You could have characters poking fun at oil. I mean, the whole oil industry is rife with abuse and things like that. It's complicated, and they don't shy away from that. So what Taylor Sheridan does is just basically tell stories without a filter, and that's one of the reasons why he's so successful and talented.
Yeah, and they're able to, have someone make good points, making fun of something that's kind of like a sacred cow for any given direction. And that's one of the big things too, because there's a million TV shows where some white guy shows up on screen to say something mean about or the environment or something, and everyone hates him because they design him to be hateable, because he's like, they specifically make him like, Albert von Puppy Kicker or something, every single time. But what the Sheridan shows end up doing is making them like intelligent, likable people who say things that some people might disagree with, and making good points about it. And so a lot of these bad writers are just absolutely everywhere. But to me, I think their comeuppance is arriving in the form of AI. For better or for worse, I think Hollywood is going to get a kick in the teeth from AI. And I wanted to say also that this morning I was looking at YouTube real quick, because sometimes I like to listen to something while I, one of the long form podcasts or something while I get ready for the day and whatnot. And I saw that Red Letter Media put out an episode talking about AI in film. And so I listened to that this morning, and they made some good points, which I'm not going to try to retread. I do recommend viewers go watch it if you have, probably an hour. It's probably an hour long of just them sitting around complaining about AI. But it's still interesting. And what they focus on is more like people being deceptive with AI video and how that's wrong. But so there was a funny bit, because that episode, I think they filmed it like last week. And they keep talking, or Rich keeps talking about how, who's going to save Hollywood from AI is Disney. Disney is going to stop. They're going to sue the pants off of OpenAI and stuff, and they're going to come to the rescue. Disney lawyers. Anyway, so recently Walt Disney Company came to an agreement with OpenAI. The company website, Andy, if you could pull up the Walt Disney Company website, clip there. They break it down pretty nicely with a nice little summary at the top. I wonder how they produce that summary. And some good writers there. Anyway, so I'm just going to read the summary here for you guys. So as part of a 3-year licensing agreement, Sora will be able to generate short user-prompted social videos that can be viewed and shared by fans, drawing on more than 200 Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars characters. Agreement will make a selection of these fan-inspired Sora short-form videos available to stream on Disney Plus, which is interesting. Disney and OpenAI affirm a shared commitment to responsible use of AI that protects the safety of users and the rights of creators. Alongside the licensing agreement, Disney will become a major customer of OpenAI, using its APIs to build new products, tools, and experiences, including for Disney Plus, and deploying ChatGPT for employees. As part of the agreement, Disney will make a $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI and receive warrants to purchase additional equity.
Wow.
Okay, so that's pretty gigantic. The agreement does not include talent likenesses or voices, so they're not going to be able to like copy the original actress that played Ursula or whatever's voice and use that. They're probably going to produce original stuff for that. But anyway, this surprised me quite a bit at first, but it is licensed. It's not for free. Disney Plus will almost certainly draw interest because of, the fan-made content that they're going to be posting there. People want to see if their fan-made content will end up on Disney Plus, all of that stuff. So it's just ironic, I guess, because a lot of these big companies have been really antagonistic towards fan content in the past. And of course, it's not quite loosening up about that because, again, licensed. But I can't imagine, Paramount, which is kind of infamous for brutally cracking down on Star Trek fan-made content, and Games Workshop, which is also infamous for brutally cracking down on fan content.
Nintendo.
Nintendo doing something like this. But on the other hand, while the corporate level seems interested in AI-generated content, there is a lot of dissent and disagreement among the creatives themselves. And it's kind of hard to blame them. The idea, if you're some person who went to school at CalArts for however many years to get your degree in, studio animation, and then Disney comes out and says, we're partnering with OpenAI to produce animated films now with AI, that would be crushing. And I can't blame them for being upset about it. But guys, do you think that this is going to be kind of like a wake-up call for a lot of the creatives that have been supporting this stuff, or do you think they're just going to like double down? Is this going to be AI slop with built-in, corporate HR DEI policy in it, or is it going to save us from that stuff?
Can I just take a totally different angle on this real quick?
Sure.
So I remember,
my discussion.
No, because I think this actually completely addresses that, but just from a different vantage point here. So I remember back when The Sopranos was on HBO on Sunday nights, and I was in college at the time, and we'd all have to gather on the TV, watch it together, and then the next morning in our classes we would talk about it. I think that this kind of content is going to make it so that there is not that shared cultural experience at all anymore, and everyone's just going to create their own content. And while I understand that has advantages and benefits, and if you want to create a whole library of new Marvel, movies or short movies or whatever based on, what you want to see, I do feel that is going to further, just bring us away from each other. And some of the only things that we still have in common are watching sports because they're live. And it used to be watching movies and TV shows, but the movie and TV show thing now is, I think, no longer something that we can do.
Yeah, the craziest thing about all of this is just like the pace in which all of this is progressing. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, we've had Christian on for, this is the 5th year now. And I don't think that AI was at a level in terms of content creation like this that we even talked about it 1 year ago. Mm-hmm. And now it's it's just so unbelievable. With that announcement with Disney and OpenAI, Jim shared a couple of videos of Darth Vader rapping through the the Carillion ship or whatever, and it's just like this is where we're at now. Like that level of quality would only have been seen in a major motion picture studio production. Now it's somebody just typed on their computer, I want Darth Vader to do a rap about whatever, and hit enter, and then it generates it. So it's unbelievable that it's happened at this pace. And because it's happening at this pace, I think that there is just so much of like a feeling out process that needs to happen. I don't know what the studios think is like, cannibalizing their own stuff, or if they're going to embrace it because, this is going to make everything so much more efficient. I really don't know. On one hand, it's like, oh, you almost want to like chastise studios for even imagining using generative AI to produce content like this. But on the other hand, it's like, what's the other option? Them spending millions of dollars to do reshoots or something because they missed filming a scene? It's like, doesn't that seem like almost irresponsible with the money that they're shelling out for these movies? So I don't know. This is a totally like uncharted territory. This technology that we're talking about is basically magic. Especially if you like take it in the context of just a couple of years ago mindset, it's basically magic. So all of these studios are just trying to figure out what's the best, course forward. And I don't think anyone can confidently say what that is.
And that includes Disney.
To monetize their content so that users can use it for whatever they want it to be. But I do think that that's going, it might be visually appealing, but I don't think it's going to have the same story arcs. It's not going to have the same profound impact on people that when we all share an experience, like, Dances with Wolves in the early 1990s. I mean, that was a phenomenon. And I think that really changed, people's views on things. But now if everyone can go and create their own, Dances with Wolves type movie with their own ending and their own characters and their own story arc, what can we compare and contrast, and what kind of shared culture are we going to have?
I think the class of people that don't understand what's going on includes Disney and their executives.
Exactly.
This appears to me to be that they are flailing. They have no idea what would reach a normal human being and energize them as an audience member, because they've been grown up in a very perverted situation. And they've been surrounded by people who just don't have any contact with normal human beings, and have a sort of a sense of privilege and aristocracy, and so they don't have any real relationship with reality, and so they have no idea what's going on. They have no idea what would really energize an audience of normal people. And they don't have any real concern about doing that. So what they're doing is saying, well, let's monetize this. Let's get some money here, some money there, and we'll be okay. But the reality is that interest rates have gone up. This is really important. We used to have negative interest rates or zero interest rates. And so money was free and you could do whatever you want. You could just keep borrowing and borrowing, and you could just buy other companies. Now you can't do that quite so easily. So they have no idea how to function in a world that's changed both economically and socially. They have no idea how to reach normal human beings anymore.
Well, Christian, I mean, like, wasn't this what was that strike? What was that Hollywood strike? Was that like late 2023? It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, maybe a year or two ago. Yeah.
Right. And a major part of that revolved around AI. There was this concern that either like extras in the background or even just people doing CGI work were going to be displaced by artificial intelligence. And I thought like that was like a major sticking point of that strike that went in the favor of those workers. But now this happens. I'm just very like, I don't understand exactly what's happening here. Like, our studios, is Hollywood saying like no AI is going to enter this creative domain of ours, or are they saying, all right, we're going to do everything with AI now? Like, what's the reality here?
Well, I mean, I think they're saying both. They don't know, and the speed, which has been mentioned here, is such a big issue. I remember a couple of years ago, I was Zooming with some friends, and they said, "Here, punch in Christian Toto into the like a Grok-like device, and see what it says about him." and it spat out my buyout, and it was like half right and half wrong. And like 6 months later, we did it again. It was like almost all completely right. The
Right.
speed is shocking. I think we are still processing social media as a culture and a society, and we don't quite know what to do with it yet.
Yeah.
And then this comes along, and I think it's going to blow the doors of just about everything. It scares me to death. And part of me thinks, well, the studios will be able to save money and make movies cheaper, and they'll get more profit. So when you make an F1 or a Mission Impossible, you don't have to spend $300 to $500 million. You can make it maybe for $1 or $2 million, $100 million. I know it's all of a sudden you're talking about real money, but still, that's at the proportion of Hollywood that matters. What about all those workers who worked tirelessly to make those movies? They're out of work now. And what about, in another positive way, what about if you're a very smart, very driven, very educated person, you've got interesting stories to share, but you have zero access to studios and marketing and publicity and anything.
Yes.
But you can tap into AI, tell your story, throw it up on YouTube or Rumble, and all of a sudden you've got a viral sensation based on no budget, no money, just whatever's in your head.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exciting, but there's so much to fear. And I guess I've seen Terminator 2 Judgment Day too often, but I'm scared to death.
Yeah. Well, and
I know.
I had the same impulse when it first started getting to the point where I was like, I can conceivably see this being a tool that you could use to make short form or even full, like, picture length content for YouTube or something, like fan stuff, to get it up and get it mirrored before you get copyright struck by whoever. And I thought, this is really great, because this would be useful for someone who does not have the money to spend on 8 years of art school, animation school, or learning how to do all this stuff. And they'd be able to produce something that's been sitting in their brain forever, and people will enjoy it and everyone will have fun. And I still think that wouldn't be a bad use of it, as long as you were out up front with the fact that it was made using artificial intelligence. And I've thought there's a lot of nuance to be had here. I told Jim a couple of weeks ago, I think maybe last week, that my pie in the sky hope with AI and a Disney merger with AI would be that they would be able to get the cost of hand-drawn animation down by using it for the in-betweens. Because when you draw handmade animation, you draw the main scene parts and then all those little in-between things. And that's something that I think AI would be good at, is filling in the in-betweens, which cost a ton of money to do because they take forever to do a full-length movie. And so I thought, well, that maybe it would get Disney back to hand-drawn animation if they were to use that for that purpose. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just going to keep making the current 3D animation CGI crap with this, and it'll be cheaper for them to do it with that, and it'll suck. But
yeah, I mean, just real quick. I mean, Christian, I didn't. You think about we're a free market think tank, and there's a term called creative destruction that nobody really cries for the demise of the bully whip manufacturer when the automobile is invented. But who this, and so I hadn't really thought about the plus side of it as much as the negative side of it. I mean, especially when you watch the Red Letter Media, AI slop video. It's very entertaining, and it brings up some very good points. But you just brought up a very good point too, Christian. It's the idea of getting what's ever in your head out there. You know who this would really help a lot? That writer who was featured in that Compact article about the Lost Generation, Jacob Savage. So, he's written tons of scripts, and they're really good, and people that, would normally hire him and give his show a shot can't, because he's a white guy. Now, maybe with AI in the next year or two, he could write that script and he could work for a year all by himself using AI and put out an entire full-length, a full TV series if you wanted to, using AI and his words.
That's starring Tilly Norwood, by the way.
That's right. Or starring Matthew McConaughey, if you want to pay for his image and voice, which he has now put out there for sale, apparently. So this is a whole new world for Hollywood, and it's just the beginning of it, and we really have no idea where it's going to end up. Jeffrey Katzenberg, I believe, just very recently said that AI is going to eliminate about 90%. I believe I read that right. 90% of animator jobs in Hollywood, because AI can just do it better and faster. I mean, if you and I can do it using Grok today, and we have no experience in animation or content creation, then imagine what those tools in the hands of a handful of professionals instead of an entire staff of professionals at a Hollywood studio could do.
Right. Yeah, there's another thing that, like, a lot of people like to kind of point out the shortcomings of artificial intelligence. There was a period of time that everyone would say, like, oh, images, they would have 6 fingers or something like that. That's not a thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
AI is very good at that. And there's like this idea that, like AI, generative AI right now is the worst that it's ever going to be. Like, it's only going to get better.
Right.
Any shortcomings that you see, any making fun of it because of awkward movements or inconsistent backgrounds or anything like that, like, that's all going to be taken care of in a relatively short amount of time. And the other thing, to Chris's point, because I also hear hear this a lot, is this idea that, like, all of a sudden Sony Pictures is just going to, like, type in a prompt and generate a movie. Like, it's not going to be that. It's going to be a collaborative thing. It's going to be a blend of people, using AI in addition to, all of the other standard things. Like I mentioned to Jim, like, the idea of Marvel Studio, they're filming the next Captain America movie or something. And you always hear these stories of these, like, multi-million-dollar reshoots that they have to do, where they have to maybe do, like, a pickup shot. They forgot to film, Robert Downey Jr.'s reaction to something somebody said. So the studio can go and, reset up all of that and refilm it to the tune of $1 million. Or they could just, like, get ChatGPT to do it for $5. It's like that's more of the sort of thing that I fully expect to happen. But yeah, it'll definitely be a blend. It's not just it'll be wholesale creating content with AI from these studios. At least not yet.
Well, could you see a time, maybe in a decade or so, where people could literally just prompt whatever movie or TV show they want? And I mean, I understand that does have benefits because, we do want, content that's tailored to, the specific desires of people. But I also do think that could once again just just drive people further apart. And, right now when you go on Netflix and you just keep, scrolling because there's just so much content. I mean, could you imagine that sort of a environment with unlimited AI generated content?
Andy says no in the background, but I say yes, because some of these things are short form things. I mean, half the stuff on Disney Plus, if you go on there, even stuff that they promote, like to get you to buy it, it'll be like a 4-minute short video about, the character from The Incredibles running around or whatever, so, like, things like that. Sure. Absolutely. I think that's going to happen. But, I think I once said, maybe not on one of these podcasts, but I once said that, the strike, we're going to box out AI from getting into our creative domain. I kind of feel like that would be at their own peril, because all of their competitors, there used to not really be much of an independent content creating market, to compete with Hollywood. There is plenty of that now, whether it's just independent content creators on YouTube or even kind of like independent studios like, whatever the Daily Wire is doing and some of these other places, where they're not going to shy away from, cutting costs and having marvelous backgrounds generated by AI. Whereas Hollywood, to generate something comparable, is going to have to spend millions of dollars. So I think it's just going to hasten their demise if they really just stiff arm AI out of their creative domain. So I don't know. It almost feels like a damned if they do, damned if they don't situation for them.
I think you're right, Donald. Technology is neutral. Technology is neutral. It all depends on what the people who are behind the technology, who are using the technology, are using it to do. And it's very far from inconceivable that Hollywood will collapse because of the incredible decrease in production costs that AI could cause. However, the caution I would give is that as recording technology became much more broadly available for music and much more widely accepted, it looked like we were going to have a renaissance of new music. But the corporations have been able to take that and get it into their own flow and make money from it. So it's possible that these new technologies could be very liberating for the arts. but the corporations will still do their best to rein them in.
Christian, you were going to jump in and say something?
No, I'm so staggered by the complexity of this conversation, the million different variables, the fact that you mentioned the speed of change and how this will be the worst, the most crude version of AI that we have. I mean, I guess maybe one of the X factors here is how much energy it consumes to make it, but it's all inevitable. We can't, like I said, if Hollywood puts its feet down and says, I'm not going to do this, then Angel Studios will, or Daily Wire will, or some guy in his studio will. There's a comedian I like a lot, Andrew Heaton. He's kind of a libertarian comedian, and I think he wrote a musical recently and he used AI to kind of basically animate it. Maybe might have done it like 1 or 2 years ago, and it was interesting but pretty crude. Imagine if he did it tomorrow, how good it would look. And all he needs is his wit, his imagination, his satire, and then he doesn't have a resource. He doesn't have someone to make it come to life. Mm-hmm. Now he does.
Yeah.
Question, Donnie, just quick question. This could be everybody on the panel here. So when we talk about music and how AI has a song that was at the top of the charts, if we had a fully generated AI movie, would you put that in the same category as a human produced movie? Would you give it the same value? Me neither.
Well, yeah, and that actually kind of relates to a question that I was going to pose to Christian in relation to just like the public acceptance of this sort of thing, right? Because with any new technology, there's always people that kind of like, I don't want to incorporate it into my daily life. I remember my mom never wanted to get a cell phone until 5 years ago or something like that. But it feels like with AI, it's almost like another level of hostility towards it. Like just the idea that there's a term called AI slop out there. That exists. People talk about that. Young people talk about that. Young people are usually the quick to adopt, the new things out there. And there just seems to be a hostility towards it. And in that video that Linnea mentioned, that Red Letter Media video, they showed a clip of I think it was Rachel Ray or something. I don't know my daytime TV show host, but she brought up this idea of AI influencers being out there, and she was talking about this AI influencer who's known for her fashion and the fact that she goes to places like Wimbledon and all of that. Draw controversy recently because she wasn't actually at Wimbledon, because she's not actually a real person. This is artificial intelligence. And the crowd response to it, I thought, was kind of telling, because instead of them being like, oh, wow, that's crazy, they were like, boo, booing artificial intelligence. And I just wonder if there's going to be a backlash to AI. If let's say the new Star Wars movie or something, it's known that in the production they used 20% of their CGI stuff was rendered using generative AI. If that would cause people to maybe boycott's probably an overstatement, but just choose not to consume that content. Do you have any sense of whether or not there is a widespread kind of rejection of that stuff, or that maybe even the potential of that would be possible? Or do you think that's too complex for the average movie consumer, and then they're going to go watch Star Wars regardless?
I think it's possible, but I think people will just eventually accept it. They'll be bombarded by AI on all sides of them, and they'll just kind of shrug their shoulders. I kind of overhear some of my kids when they're watching TikTok or YouTube shorts, and there's certain voices that I know are AI. It's a very identifiable pattern, and it drives me nuts. And if I was on my phone, I would swipe away because I hate that voice. They don't hate that voice. They're used to it.
Right.
They don't give it a second thought. So I think we get used to it pretty quickly. So I think, listen, for many, many reasons, we're afraid of AI. We're wary of it. We want it to be true art. And I get that. Those are all good, noble impulses. But after a while, I don't know how the dam is going to break. It seems, how do you stop it?
Yeah. You sorry, Jim. You have people like Guillermo del Toro that are saying, I will never use AI in any of my work, which is, it's like, well, he's a phenomenal artist, right? Whether or not his stuff is to your taste, sometimes it's hit or miss, but he's an artist and he has artistic vision and stuff. He'd be like Tim Burton or someone. But the problem is also that no AI is actually it's not that any art is original, because everyone is inspired by things that they take from around them. But AI is a particularly, in my opinion, like insidious form of like copying, especially in the art community in particular. You know, the last couple of years, so I'm in and out of a lot of conversations about art in general, just because I do, you know, hand-drawn stuff and paint and write and everything. But you know, it's been getting a little bit rough, and it's not because creators are getting blocked out necessarily or out competed by like Midjourney or something. But it's because they're being falsely accused by other people of using AI, because the AI has been trained on their work that they posted online. So people are having like their personal style and stuff stolen by these different, you know, they have a particular type of image generating AI where you can train it on a specific artist's work and generate content based off of that and stuff. So they're wigging out. And I'm sure someone like Guillermo del Toro, if he was, you know, his work is very identifiable, or like Tim Burton is very identifiable. And if you were to go and make a project online that you used AI for, and it's in the style of Del Toro or Burton or something, I wouldn't find it wrong of them to be offended by that. That just seems just icky. There's no better term for it.
Well, they should be. And this is, and I think Christian can speak to this as well. I mean, you know, I've been reading a lot of commentary about that story from Disney and partnering with ChatGPT and you know, using Sora video and all that stuff. And it's the fact that AI has been trained to do things in the style of Del Toro or in the style of or anime style. That's theft. They're stealing the intellectual creation of somebody who actually created it. Guillermo del Toro's style is his. He invented it. It came from his head. It came from years and decades of hard work and perfection. And AI is learning how to do it for you on your phone or on your laptop. By, you know, you can ask it to do it in his style. How is that not theft? This is where it gets, you know, the line for this gets really, really blurry. And if I was a creator of that kind of talent, I would be really pissed off to see some schmo in Florida making a video in my style and using characters that I invented, that I wrote, that came out of my brain to do something that I have nothing to do with, and maybe something that's even offensive to me personally, or runs counter to why I created those sorts of things. That's pretty bad. And if I'm in Hollywood, I'm pretty pissed.
Yeah, and I don't think that's like a Luddite attitude either. I think it's appropriate.
But you know, when it comes to copying things, we're all against it. It's noble to say that. It's important to say that. But what about some far-flung country that knocks off handbags and jeans? What if they just copy stuff and we can't get to them? We can't sue them. I don't know. It seems really complicated.
I mean, James Cameron, I think, came out and he said how he doesn't want to like necessarily stop any of these large language model generative AI things from learning the styles. He's more concerned with like the outputs. So it's like if somebody were to pump out some, you know, avatar clone, then he would be mad at that person that pumped out the avatar clone, not necessarily the large language model or generative AI model that allowed that person to do that. But yeah, again, like this just kind of goes back to my first comment. All of this is moving so quick that like nobody is able to kind of keep up with the implications of this stuff, whether it's legislators, lawyers, studios, individual people, artists that it's stealing from. Like we're all just like, it's just a train moving at 150 miles an hour, and we're trying to jump on.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and I do want to move us along here because we're almost totally out of time. We've already gone over as we normally do for this show, but we're going to go a little bit more over because I do want to get to the fourth topic here, which is just optimism for the future, because we've kind of all dug ourselves into a sad AI slop pit, and I want to talk about good things that are coming up on the horizon here. There is some really cool entertainment out there, and Donnie, you sent us videos in chat yesterday showing a really neat thing that I compared to the Bugs Life experience at Disney that traumatized me as a child. But this is I guess the Vegas Dome is doing this, and this is with movies instead of stage performances. But I want to show our audience some of those clips.
Yes, please. So just, you know, just a reoccurring thing that we've talked about in probably all 5 of the episodes that you've been on with us, Christian, is this idea. I think we touched on it in this episode, that like that theater experience is just dwindling. You know, the idea of the big screen TV at your house, you know, you don't have people munching on popcorn behind you, like all of that stuff it's just this deterioration of this like culture that goes and sees movies like this, right? And these I've seen a couple of new things in the past year that excites me as like a content watcher. And one of those things is from I think it's in that like Las Vegas sphere. Maybe it's only in that. Maybe it's in other things too. I don't know. But it was this the showing of the Wizard of Oz movie across this like I don't know. Maybe people aren't super familiar with that like Las Vegas sphere, but it's basically like a projection screen that's like 360. Not only around you, but above you. It's a whole sphere that you're in where images could be projected on all the, everywhere. And they crafted this Wizard of Oz movie to fit that format. Instead of just being a little rectangle in front of you, it's this whole huge experience that you're in the middle of. We have some video of it. I don't remember when this was originally released, but I definitely have only seen it this year. But when you watch this, just like imagine sitting in this theater, basically living inside the Wizard of Oz movie. So if we could play that, I don't know if we need audio or what, but
she tried to, didn't she?
You could see that it's across the entire sphere. If they look up, you see the tornado above them. They've got the effects of the wind and debris flying around you for like a 4D effect and all of that. But like this, when did Wizard of Oz come out? What year did that come out?
1939.
39. I would be more interested in seeing this movie right here than whatever the next Avengers movie that's coming out, because of the experience that you would be in the middle of. This, to me, is like the future of an event, going to an event like what a movie would have been 20, 30 years ago. Similarly, and I think we have video of this too, but they did like a Matrix,
insane.
In a specific studio in I think LA. And now this isn't quite as crazy as like that one that we just showed, but you could see how they've like extrapolated the movie beyond the screen to a point where it almost feels like you're living inside of it. I would pay so much money to go see this. I would happily shell out $50, $75 for a ticket to go see Terminator 2 like this easily. So I wonder if like we're going to see more things like this. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't even necessarily require the creation of a new movie. We've got decades of old movies that could be formatted like this. Could you imagine sitting in that Las Vegas sphere watching Gladiator, making it feel like you're sitting in the Coliseum watching this movie take place in front of you? Oh my gosh, I would pay so much money for that. What's your take on this, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is the future. I think just the price point issue is significant, and getting the being able to replicate this is extremely expensive. My brother went to see U2. I don't know if that's when it opened, but the price. I mean, he told me the ticket. I think I blocked it on my mind. It was so expensive I couldn't even process it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's things start out super expensive, then they kind of get cheaper and cheaper, and this will revitalize existing content and give new life to stories coming soon. I completely agree. A couple of trends, I think. This is pretty minor. I love that they're putting concerts in movie theaters now, because I think that's a great alternative, because, who can afford to go see Taylor Swift, but you can actually pay a ticket price and go see her in a theater with all her friends, with great sound and a big screen. I mean, I think that's a novel way to keep the theatrical experience alive. And then again, much smaller. I'm really enjoying some of the new horror storytellers like Osgood Perkins. I don't know. When I see, and he's not even new. I think he's maybe in his early 40s or something, but he's kind of new on the scene and really kind of catching fire. So whenever you see the rise of exciting artists, I think that's interesting and something to look forward to. But I guess the ultimate way to fight AI will be to be more human than human, to be intuitive and thoughtful and original and bold and fresh. because those are things that AI I don't think they can do yet.
Yeah, there real quick. There was also another thing that's just hopped to mind is like you see these videos now of like certain bars maybe where you have like this like stadium seating and they're watching like a football game on this like projection that kind of wraps around, and it looks like in the film, like in the video, it looks like they're sitting like right next to the end of the end zone, like where the players are going to run up right to them. You know, so like I could imagine like, maybe you don't need a Las Vegas sphere, because that seems like you probably can't replicate that in Schaumburg, Illinois or something. Maybe you can, but you can at least have something like that. Like, there's videos of this right now playing. Like, it just feels like this is the future. I would pay money to go do this, not necessarily to go see a recreation of a cartoon that came out 20 years ago on a screen that's slightly bigger than the one I have at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and I was just thinking, I was like, man, what if I go and play like Call of Duty in the Sphere or something? But that would be that one movie, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one where but they also make it so that the characters you're playing are real people, like prisoners, and they kill them for real. I can't remember what that movie is called. Anyway, my brain goes right to dystopias. But you guys, I want to end this pretty soon here, but I really wanted us to get to what movies were, what movie and TV was really good this year, like knocked your socks off, or that you were really pleased with, and what also should we be looking forward to. And, for my part, I'm not holding my breath that it's going to be great, because Jack Black has hit or miss with a lot of this kind of stuff, but I'm probably going to go end up seeing Anaconda once it's out for rent, because my dad and I used to love watching those Anaconda movies when they were on Sci-Fi Channel or whatever. Once it's for rent, at least I'll go see it, unless I hear that it's just terrible. But it looks silly and fun, and silly and fun is something that we don't get enough of, I think. And I've said for a long time that I'll never get tired of zombie movies. And I will never get tired of zombie movies. I just love them. I don't care how bad they are and how overdone it is. I just don't care. There's one coming out that's called We Bury the Dead. It's already come out in Australia, I think, but it seems promising, though. I think Daisy Ridley is the lead, which doesn't inspire a whole lot of hope. But
I just saw it last night. It's pretty good, but it's not it's not a rock'em sock'em zombie movie. It's more thoughtful, more introspective. So just kind of expect that. I think you'll enjoy it. And I thought she was solid in the film.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know then. And then there's a movie coming out that I'm hoping is going to start a new trend for movies. I know Donnie and I know Andy are both so excited about Avatar, but I would like to talk about something a little bit different. And there's a movie coming out called The Third Parent, which is based on an old creepypasta. And to our audience who doesn't know what those are, they are basically short horror stories that are posted online in places like 4chan and Reddit and other forums. And the Third Parent creepypasta was very disturbing, and it was very, very popular. And so I don't know how it'll go as a movie, especially since like the Slender Man movie sucked so bad. But we will see. I'd like to see good movies based on creepypastas, because there's a lot of really good creative content there to mine that has not been mined. And I guess Mel Gibson is making a couple movies. So that's what I'm looking forward to. How about the rest of you guys?
I'm just going to, this will be my final comment for the episode, but I'm going to make this like prediction for 2026 that this is like the make or break for a couple of franchises out there. Mandalorian and Grogu, that's the new Star Wars movie coming out. It's coming out in May. If that doesn't do well, put a fork in Star Wars. It's over. And then the same thing with the Avengers, what is it called? Doomsday or something. Mm-hmm. That's their big tent one. They could probably write off the fact that the Fantastic Four didn't do fantastic, and some of the other Marvel movies that came out this past year didn't do super well. If that movie doesn't do super well, put a fork in it.
Man, but Donnie, big tent with what characters?
I don't know. But that's the thing.
What Marvel movies have come out?
I hear you. But yeah, if neither of those movies do well, oh my gosh, you might as well just throw those IPs in the trash.
I agree.
Yeah, I concur with everything you just said. And I'm even looking forward to the Avengers Doomsday teaser trailers. To me, the Avengers was like I was a kid again watching those movies. I think they did so much more right than wrong. But when you stuff 18,000 characters roughly, I'm exaggerating, but only slightly, and then you make the iconic hero of the saga into the villain, Robert Downey Jr. is Dr. Doom. I just don't get it. I can't wrap my brain around it, but we'll have to wait and see. It could be a colossal waste of resources, but hope springs eternal, and I hope they can make me feel like a kid again.
Anything you're looking forward to, Chris?
Well, I have got a couple movies that I did watch this year that we haven't talked about yet that I just want to mention real quick. So Happy Gilmore 2 I thought was great.
Yeah, I thought it was
A House
great.
of Dynamite I thought was pretty good. Warfare, I like that one a lot. I also like The Accountant 2. And in terms of TV, I think Black Mirror, the latest season of Black Mirror was pretty solid. And if anybody has not watched Sean Combs' The Reckoning by 50 Cent, you have to watch that.
Jim,
Anybody? Jim?
Well, yeah, let me just say, I saw the new Knives Out movie last night, Wake Up Dead Man. I have not been a real big fan of the Knives Out movies. I thought Glass Onion was actually cringely bad. Oh, just terrible. But I heard so many good things about Wake Up Dead Man. It is really good. In fact, it covers, the Catholic Church is a big plot driver. It's basically the setting for the film. It's the most respectful and frankly prayerful depiction of the Catholic Church and serious Catholics I may have ever seen on anything in a long time. And for that alone, just for the refreshing view of religion, not as a source of evil or hypocrisy or all that stuff, but the central characters, his Catholicism it's really, really amazing. So I highly recommend that. I've also, I'm sure Christian has, I hope Christian has seen Pluribus, which is the new Apple TV show right now. It was the #1 streaming show in the world right now, and it's on Apple TV Plus. Considering it's that popular, the biggest streaming show in the world right now, when I think maybe 25% of people who have streaming services have that service. It's I highly recommend that show. It's made by Vince Gilligan. It's very good, but that's 2 more episodes to go, so you can binge it and catch up. But as far as next year, I'm looking forward to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which looks like a fun and perhaps successful spinoff of the Game of Thrones universe. Really look forward to that. And Donnie and I are also looking forward to House of the Dragon season 3, but we have trepidation about it because season 2 is a bit uneven. But and then of course Severance season 3, which we didn't get into this on the show today, and there isn't enough time. But it takes too damn long to get the next season of a show that's going on. It should not take 2 years to put together an 8-episode TV show, for crying out loud. But Severance in the future should be great.
I have one quick question for Christian. Christian, did you see Nuremberg this year?
No, it's I have access to it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Okay, because that's another one that I do want to see, but I'm probably going to wait for it to come on streaming.
I liked a BBC mystery show called Ludwig, in which there was a comedian who is playing a character who is a puzzle maker, and he gets swept up into his police detective brother's life when his twin brother disappears. And it was very funny and very thoughtful, and of course it has a terrific conspiracy thing in the middle of it. So that was fun. I also watched several of these crazy action movie series. So like there's this series of films starring Liam Neeson on ice roads, which are just absolutely absurd, but incredible fun. So that was good times there.
Yep. All right. Well, Christian, I want to end with you. If you have recommendations for movies that maybe people haven't seen, or what didn't, kind of flew under the radar a little bit, movies that people should go watch, and stuff that we should be keeping our eye on.
Yeah,
and with Avatar 3.
I'll throw in a couple titles. The new season of Landman is nearly as good, if not just as good as season 1. On the big screen on, I think it's Christmas Day, Marty Supreme. I think it's going to be my favorite movie of 2025. Timothée Chalamet as a ping pong prodigy. Just loved it, full of imagination, warmth, and humor. Very complicated anti-hero at the star of it. And also, Is This Thing On? It's a film with Will Arnett. It's about a couple breaking apart, and he decides to become a stand-up comedian to kind of use it as therapy. It's really engaging, directed by Bradley Cooper. And then I loved Weapons. I loved Sinners, so that was terrific. F1 is a blast if you haven't caught up with it yet. So those are my quick recommendations. And my tribute to Rob Reiner is please just don't watch the Spinal Tap sequel. It's on HBO Max now. Just resist.
Oh,
It's
that's
just
a shame.
It's such a crashing disappointment and just the worst way for a great auteur to bow out. I just wish they had decided not to make it.
Do you have a favorite Rob Reiner film?
Oh God, in my heart of hearts, it's The Sure Thing. I know it's not his best film, but I love it dearly. I could quote it all day long, and it's sweet, and it's a rom-com, and it's special, and it's not. Sometimes when people all over don't love it like you do, you kind of hug it a little tighter. Everyone loves Princess Bride and Misery, and When Harry Met Sally, and Stand by Me, Spinal Tap, but The Sure Thing is special, and it's hard to find. You got to get it on DVD or Blu-ray. It's not streaming.
Wait. Come on. I wasn't joking. How about Avatar 3?
It's a spectacle like the last one. The 3D is magnificent, and the story feels like such a retread. And even James Cameron in recent days is basically kind of putting the brakes on his own franchise. And when the guy who says King of the World is talking down his own saga, it's time to bow out. So it's certainly worth seeing. It's amazing to behold, but it's just stale at this point. I'm sorry.
All right, guys. On that note, that is all the time we have for Avatar.
Oh, that was great.
We lost someone.
So thank you, everyone, for your attention to these matters. We are live every single week on Thursdays at noon Central on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, except we will not be back until the new year. So we will see you then. Mr. Toto, is there anything that you would like to tell our audience that they need to go check out? Your website, recent work, other interviews?
Yeah, my website is hollywoodintoto.com, and the podcast is the Hollywood in Toto podcast. You can find that on YouTube, Rumble, iTunes, all the places where podcasts are found.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And you were on Andrew Klavan recently, and that was a great interview as well. So
Thanks.
I recommend our viewers go check that out. Jim, what do you have for the audience today?
Oh, we will have our The Climate Realism Show on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. It should be a lot of fun.
Chris, anything?
Yeah, I'm grabbing something. Can you go to somebody else first?
Okay, Sam, what do you have?
Heartland.org. Visit our website.
Awesome. And Donnie has
All
evacuated.
right, I do this for Donnie. This is the new book. Is that good? Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, go buy it. Amazon.
The next big crash.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, I don't know where Donnie went, but anyway, so that's all we've got, you guys. For audio listeners, please rate us well on whatever service you're using and leave a review. It helps us out a lot. Thank you so much to all of our usual panelists and our special guests, and also to you, the viewer. Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy New Year. We will see you again in the new year. So goodbye.